Hello there and welcome to this video in which I, Victor Helthorp, Danish Olympic speed skater, inline skater and part-time short track skater, will be comparing the different skates. We're looking at short track skates. This one is a CBC. Over here we've got a Viking long track boot and of course my Rollerblade inline skating boot. Are the brands that I recommend, but in this video we're going to be talking more generally about the differences between inline skates, long track skates, and short track skates, just for you to have an idea of what you should look for when choosing a skate of either of those disciplines. I'm going to be more specific about which things that would matter depending on where you're at in your career and what is the purpose of your skating. Would you want to be a world champion? Would you want to figure out how skating works? Or are you going to try and become fitter and just improve your overall health? So in this video, we're going to look at the different skates and I'm going to guide you to what you should know and think about when you're choosing your skates or even which discipline you're going to go with. Of course, I am going to mention some brands in this video, but those are just the 3 brands that I personally use myself after plus 20 years of skating. I feel like I found the different boots, the different sizes, the different brands that really align with what I am looking for in a skate. But again, this is going to be very individual depending on your age, your experience, and which distances you're skating. But for now, let's just get down to business and look at the 3 different skates. I am going to go in depth with each discipline. So if you're really not into, say, long track or short track skating and just looking to know more about which inline boots you should be wearing and why, then you can feel free to fast forward to that part of the video. Of course, I hope you want to watch the whole thing just to learn a little more about the different disciplines that we find in our beautiful sport, skating. Now we have the 3 skates aligned here, just so there's no confusion. The one to the left here, that is a short track skate. Next to that, we have, obviously, it's an easy one, an inline skate. And then ultimately to the right here, we have a long track boot. So they look alike here. You can see they're all made out of carbon that's then covered with leather. The main difference is the stiffness and the shape of the boot. Obviously, they're all shaped to my feet, but one thing you'll notice here when looking at them next to each other is how much taller a short track boot is, whereas the inline and the long track are much more similar when it comes to the shape of the skate. Also, short track skates will be remarkably stiffer. The reason for this is that we have so much more pressure in the turns and there's so much more to withstand, so the angle strength can simply not cope with that. That's why these are taller. Also, there's way less movement in the angles when skating on short track. It's a smaller rink and there's barely any time for straightaway strokes when using a short track boot or skating short track. This is the reason with these guys you would want to really have a high rhythm, high cadence, and that is why it's a lower cut boot that allows for more flexibility but also more room for error. And the same goes over here for the long track skate. Fairly low compared to the short track boot. Now, of course, the mounting is also different. Look at this one, it's got a firm mounting, meaning there's no claps, the blade will not move. Of course, the inlines as well will not be moving. They all have 2 mounting spots. Same goes for the long track skate, whereas here we see the clap mechanism, allowing you to really extend the push even beyond the length of your leg and the length of your feet, giving you a little more speed at a much more relaxed and comfortable rhythm and pace. For the inlines, that does not work here, and for the short track boots, there is definitely no clap mechanism. Now, these are the main differences and features that separates these skates from each other. And we can look into the more specific things. We can start out by the short track boot. The one we're going to use for this video is a CBC short track skate with the Viking Blazer 17.5 inch frames here. These are the boots I personally used. I tried a handful of different brands for short track. I really struggled to find that one that gave me the necessary support, but that I also felt comfortable in. I feel like these CBC, even though they're standard skates, really accomplish that. So check those out. Genesis CBC, definitely recommend those. Now, looking at the skate here, it is very tall and it's very thick. And as you can see here, even when forcing it a little, the carbon shell barely moves. It also has a Velcro here at the bottom to cover the laces, and then it has two upper straps. And of course, under this, you are going to find the laces. So what you want in a short track skate is really something that holds you in the turn. The turn is going to be so much pressure, and we're basically pivoting around a U-turn at incredibly high speed. So if this does not hold you, I doubt that your angles on their own will be able to do that. Therefore, really look for something that supports you. As you can see here, it's also carbon all the way up to the top, and most of your foot all the way until here is kind of covered by the carbon shell itself. The mounting blocks are different on short track skates. Very stiff, they're very thick, and again, you can just tell that you apply more pressure and that you have to turn rapidly on these guys. I do find that one of the differences, especially between the short track and the inline and the long track, is that when you do crossovers on a short track, you put it down and then you steer it around as it's on the ice using your lean and your weight positioning. Whereas the long track and the inline boots, you can still turn. So let's say you're gliding this way on this skate, you can put the next skate down like that, and then turn because you change the direction of the skates. With the short track boots, you put them down and then you can change it as they're on the ice. So again, another reason you would want a thick and stiff shell here. My wife Sophia is way better at short track than I am. She has been to 3 Olympic Games. She is a world champion, European champion, name it. And she switched her short track boots, even the ones of good quality, every single season, simply just to maintain that stiffness, so she wouldn't have any lag and always keep a super snug fit and good control in those turns. So look for a solid boot that supports as much as possible, but still give you the necessary freedom, especially backwards, forwards here, so you can have good dorsiflex and get your knees out in front of the boot, and then skate some beautiful turns and some powerful straightaways. Now, next thing we're gonna go into here will be the long track skates. So my specialty, that's what I spend most of my time doing, is long track skating. For this one, we're gonna use some Viking standard boots, 3 layers of carbon, and some Icon 16.5 blades here. The clap mechanism goes for just about any skate. Most skates right now and most skaters are using either the Icon or the Sapphire frames or blades. These two are just simply so efficient, they're so popular, and they are so fast that if you want to be up there amongst the very best, you almost have no choice. Now, the boot itself is by far the one with the least carbon and the most flexibility. The cool thing about long track is even in the blades, you get so much bend and flexibility that you can glide, and you can also apply pressure and almost get like a spring-like effect back from that. And this is why, as you can see here, this one bends more, and it's a really cool feature that Viking has here. It is soft all the way into here. So there's so much flex in the boot. The carbon goes all the way down to there. So it almost gives you this spring-like effect and allows you to coast and float on the ice. Now, if you are a sprinter, you would probably want something a little stiffer that gives more and faster response time, unlike this one that's mainly a long distance boot, at least with the 3 layers of carbon. So nice things that we notice here is that despite the carbon going up fairly high, especially for a long track boot, it does cut down far here in the back, as you can see, and it's soft here, allowing you to push fully with nothing digging in here. And especially here in the front, allowing you to get good dorsiflexion, getting the knees out over the toes, which is a key thing if you want to skate well. So those are the things you would want to look for in a long track boot. Good flexibility, but it still is stiff where it needs to be. It's also super light because there's not that much carbon. So make sure it supports as far as you need it to. The stronger angles you have, the lower boot you can get. And if you're learning long track speed skating, even though you would think the opposite, it is actually better with a soft boot. The reason for this is that if your boot is soft, it allows you to find the edges, especially if you come from inline skating where you can simply ride on the top of your skate. Well, given that these are super sharp blades and they're flat on the bottom, ironically, you will either have to be in the inside edge or the outside edge. So if your boot is so stiff that it simply just follows the shin or your leg, well, you will have some moments where you're standing right on top of your blade here and you're just gonna drift and it's gonna make an awful sound. So if you have a softer one, it gives you that little bit of lag. So when you're standing here, instead of just being on top of it, it's naturally gonna fall to the inside or the outside, and then you can already apply pressure. As you become better at skating, you'll obviously learn to lean naturally, and it's not that important. But even after 10 years of long track skating, I still like them to be a little soft, simply so I don't have to be overly tense to find that edge and can just let the skate do its own thing. The last skate here on our list is an inline skate. I grew up with these guys, and no matter how many sports I get into, I always come back to my inline skates because I love this sport and I love inline skating. And it also is just such a nice way to stay fit regardless of what your purpose is. Inline skates, the Nitro Blade from Rollerblade here, 3x 125, the biggest wheels allowed in racing. And it is, as you can see, a fairly low cut boot. Nitro Blade Pro, made by Mariani, so it's custom molded to my feet. I had it for about 2 years and definitely cannot complain. This is the boot I would recommend to just about any speed skater, inline skater out there. So the things I like in an inline skate, well, it's kind of a combination between the long trek and the short trek boot, where you want it as stiff as possible, but as low cut as a long trek skate, because that allows you to move with no loss of speed, no loss of power transfer, no weird pauses in pressure, but it also gives you the optimal mobility and maneuverability as you skate, especially on tight tracks, indoor racing, when you want to have good crossovers and be smooth. The lower the better, basically. But of course, this comes with practice and it comes with becoming good at skating. So what I look for here is a skate that's fairly light, matters a lot. You do take more steps on inlines than either of these two other sports. So we'd want to be able to move it across the other straight or other skate in a crossover as fast as possible. But of course, you also want it to be stiff enough to have a good power transfer. You also want it to be as low as possible. As you can see here, my wheels are fairly close to the boot, basically as close as they can get without burning up here. Same goes for the front. This also, again, gives you better skate control, better edge control. So if you struggle to fall to the inside, to the outside, the closer to the ground, the better. And then I am simply just looking for a skate that fits me well. One of the main differences between inline skating and the two other sports we looked at here is the duration and the distance we're skating. For inlines, a marathon is a pretty common distance, whereas on short track or long track, you basically never go that far. So even though performance is your main goal here, you do need something comfortable so you can withstand these distances. Even if you have a solid skate that rolls fast, if you get uncomfortable, if your shins cramp up, your back gets sore, you're not going to be skating well at the end either way, and it's simply not worth it. So really find something that's comfortable. And as you can see here, it does have a little more cushion on the inside, even though it fits my feet perfectly. Now, that is what I recommend for you if you're looking for inline skates. The newer you are to this sport, well, the higher and the taller boot you should probably have, so you don't fall or tilt to the inside or the outside, so you can just stand up straight. And especially if your goal is just to gain fitness, then I would recommend the sport of inline skating, and I would also recommend a higher and a taller boot, maybe even a high level fitness boot, simply because you're not losing that much speed. You can check out my channel. I made some comparison videos comparing the speed I achieved with different heart rates, comparing speed skates, semi-speed, and full fitness skates, and it's not that terrible. So if your goal is to become fitter or just to enjoy skating with friends or family, well, you don't need a speed skate like this one. You will have more comfort, and if your angles are not there yet, you might even go faster in a fitness boot. But if speed is your thing, something low but stiff. That is it for now. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope you're a little better suited when you're out there looking for your next skating boot, regardless of whether that's inline skating, long track skating, or short track. If you have any good advice to share with me, I'm super excited to hear from you, and I am sure that the rest of the skating community would appreciate that as well. So leave a comment below if I forgot to mention something. If you're looking to get better at skating, I do have 4 different training plans that I'll leave below in the description. How to prepare for a marathon, how to improve your technique, top speed, and your strength. I put a lot of effort into those, and from what I heard, they're not too bad. So check those out. And all there's left to say is thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.